Have you ever worn something, a ring, a necklace, even a bracelet, that looked perfect, but for some reason just didn't feel right? Maybe it sparkled, maybe it had meaning, maybe it came with blessings or a name or a memory. But still, when you put it on, it felt like something shifted. A quiet heaviness, a subtle pause in movement, a moment when your energy, though hard to explain, just stopped flowing quite the same. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Because we're taught that jewelry is decoration, expression, a gift, a reward. We don't often think of it as a structure, as a boundary, as a container that might quietly change the way our energy breathes. But in the world of symbolic design, and especially in classical Feng Shui, every object we wear tells a story, not just to others, but to the energy that surrounds us. That includes your home, your choices, and yes, your luck. And of all the objects we place on our bodies, the ring may be the most misunderstood. A ring is a circle, an ancient shape that holds no beginning and no end. It's a loop, a lock, a rhythm. In spiritual terms, it's considered a closure, something that holds intention tightly, which is beautiful until you realize what happens when your energy needs to expand, move, or pivot. And the symbol on your hand says contain, hold, stay. That doesn't mean rings are bad, but it does mean they're powerful, more powerful than we tend to treat them. And for certain people, with certain elemental signatures or energetic rhythms, a ring, especially one made of strong metals like gold, may begin to behave not like a beacon, but like a boundary. So in today's reflection, we'll explore what makes a ring supportive and what makes it disruptive, not from a place of superstition, not from fear, but from fit, from flow, from understanding that your body is not just skin and bone, it's energy. And what you place on that energy matters. This isn't about astrology alone. It isn't about you must or you must not. It's about resonance. The way some people thrive in stillness, while others need motion. The way some need metal to focus, while others need space to breathe. So we'll talk today about rings, fingers, flow, and form. And we'll do it gently, quietly, not to prove a point, but to offer a mirror. Because sometimes the most helpful insight is not the one that tells you what to wear. It's the one that asks you why you wear it and how it makes you feel. And before we go deeper, if this kind of quiet reflection speaks to you, if you feel like the spaces we overlook often hold the keys to our clearest alignment, I'd love your support. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who's curious about energy and design, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We are slowly and gently moving toward our first 1,000 subscribers. Not to get louder, but to keep creating more content that honors the subtle shifts that change everything. The kind of insight that doesn't shout, it whispers. Because sometimes the smallest thing, a ring on your hand, can be the reason your energy won't land. And today we're going to find out why. 1. The symbolism of rings and energy work. Before we even talk about signs or materials, we must begin with the simplest truth. A ring is a closed loop. That may sound obvious, but symbolically, it is everything. A ring is the shape of infinity turned upon itself. No beginning, no end, no escape. It is one continuous breath, one unbroken rhythm, one silent whisper that says, this is held. This is sealed, this is bound. And in energy work, especially in Feng Shui, where nothing is arbitrary and everything is connected, form is not decoration, it is declaration. To wear a ring is to place a concentrated field of intention upon a line of communication. It is not just metal on skin, it is a seal of energy on a meridian, because every finger is more than anatomy. It is an energetic channel connected to an organ, an emotion, a direction of flow. And when you place a metal band there, round, strong, specific, you're not just accessorizing, you're altering movement. The thumb, for instance, governs willpower. Autonomy, the ability to assert choice. Wearing a ring here subtly reinforces personal sovereignty. But wear it too tight or in the wrong metal, and it may tip into stubbornness. Resistance, the refusal to bend. The index finger speaks of ambition, authority, the drive to lead, initiate, shape outcomes. In traditional Chinese medicine, It's associated with the liver channel, the organ of planning, vision, and long-range intention. A ring here can energize purpose, but if misaligned, it can also agitate. It can turn forward motion into restlessness, drive into pressure. The middle finger is the axis. It governs balance, identity, grounding. Energetically, it relates to the pericardium and the body's ability to process pressure and maintain emotional boundaries. A ring here must be worn with care. It magnifies what it touches. If you're already heavy with decision fatigue or burden, a ring here can make the weight louder. The ring finger, traditionally linked to love and commitment, is also energetically linked to the heart and circulatory systems. Wearing a ring here, especially one gifted or inherited, carries not just aesthetic energy, but emotional memory. If the memory is clear, loving, and aligned, it can be stabilizing. But if the memory is fractured, unfinished, or carries sorrow unspoken, it becomes a quiet echo that rings through the hand with every movement. And the pinky, it governs communication, business, detail, the expression of finesse. Wearing a ring here may amplify articulation, but if done without harmony, it can also encourage over-talking, over-negotiating, or nervous energy. Now layer onto this the material. Is the ring gold? Then you are introducing yang metal, strong, decisive, status-oriented. It supports leadership, but can burn if worn in seasons where you need softness. Is it silver? Then you are working with yin metal, receptive, reflective, protective. It absorbs, soothes, and cools, but worn too long, it can muffle the fire of necessary action. What about jade? Jade is neither hot nor cold. It is harmonizing. A ring of jade works like a wise teacher, quiet, firm, not flashy. It protects without isolating. It invites respect rather than attention. Gemstones, too, carry their own pulse. Clear quartz may amplify whatever energy it rests against. Rutilated quartz may sharpen purpose. Rose quartz may soften grief. Lapis may awaken insight. But place the wrong stone on the wrong hand, and it can become a feedback loop, not of support, but of noise. And then there's the question of which hand, dominant or receptive. The dominant hand, the one you write with, is your projection hand. It influences what you offer the world, what you initiate. A ring worn here declares, I want this to be seen. The non-dominant hand is your intake side. It governs what you receive, what you allow, what you absorb. A ring worn here is a quieter agreement. I am willing to hold this. So when someone says, should I wear a ring? We must first ask, where are you in your journey? What is your energy asking for? Are you in a season of projection or reception, of action or restoration? Because not all forms are neutral. Not all symbols are for everyone. In fact, one of the greatest missteps in modern energy work is the assumption that all symbols are equally beneficial, universally positive. In truth, nothing is universally positive. There is only what supports your alignment and what interferes with it. This is why some people wear a ring and feel amplified, confident, focused, alive, and others wear that same ring and feel agitated, compressed, disconnected. It's not about the ring, it's about the resonance. What we wear is not just an expression of style, it's an extension of qi. And qi, when blocked, doesn't argue. It just slows. You get tired, indecisive, emotionally murky. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because something that once aligned no longer does. And so we don't demonize the ring. We don't fear it, but we also don't wear it unconsciously. We listen to our hands, our breath, our timing, because when the right object meets the right moment, it doesn't just adorn, it harmonizes. It doesn't just complete an outfit, it completes a current. And that's where power lives. Here too, not about the ring, but the person moments. Here's something that often surprises people when they begin exploring Feng Shui. Not everything symbolic is universally helpful. What supports one person may suppress another. What feels like power to one hand may feel like pressure to another. Because energy in the end is not just about the object. It's about the relationship between that object and you. In classical Feng Shui, we don't ask, is this good or bad? That's a modern oversimplification, shaped more by anxiety than awareness. Instead, we ask, is this harmonious for this moment, for this person, with this intention? And those questions open the door to subtle understanding, to personalization, to presence. Let's start by acknowledging something simple but often overlooked. Not every person is meant to wear a ring, especially not all the time, and certainly not on every finger, with every material. Because your body isn't generic, your energy isn't a template. You are a rhythm, a pattern, a constellation of elements shaped by the moment of your birth, your temperament, your season of life. This is where Chinese zodiac energies begin to whisper their guidance, not as rigid rules, but as reflections. Take the goat, for instance, an earth-rooted sign, gentle, intuitive, nurturing. The goat isn't here to cut through space like a blade. It's here to hold, to harmonize, to bring stillness where there's been disruption. But gold, a strong yang metal, can sometimes feel like a weight across the goat's softness. Not because gold is bad, but because its vibrational assertiveness can jar the goat's natural rhythm. A tight gold ring may create a quiet friction in someone who thrives on open flow, grounded ease, and emotional gentleness. It may inadvertently harden what was meant to remain supple. Then there's the dragon, fiery, visionary, ambitious. The dragon doesn't creep, it soars. Its energy is upward, outward, decisive. But a ring, especially one that is dense, heavy, or ornate, can press that fire too close to the body. Dragons often need breath, not structure. They need symbolic forms that lift and stretch, not compress and circle. Wearing a thick gold band for a dragon can sometimes feel like trying to tame the sky with a rope. What they need is a conduit, not a container. A pendant that follows the heart's line. A symbol of ascent, not enclosure. Now think of the horse. Movement defines them, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Horses thrive in wide fields and open paths. A ring, especially one worn daily, can become a tether. It may hold them back in small, imperceptible ways, turning their stride into a shuffle. For a horse, the ideal symbol is one that moves with them. A bracelet, a thread, a charm that swings, dances, flexes, something that affirms, I am free to adjust, to pivot, to gallop. This doesn't mean that goats, dragons, or horses should never wear rings. It means they must ask more carefully, feel more closely, place more intentionally, because when energy is already intense or delicate, even a small misalignment can become a recurring interruption. And the form of the ring matters too. A wide, solid ring on a sensitive sign might create friction not on the skin, but in the subtle body. That space just beyond the flesh where your intentions form before they become words. A ring with sharp corners may echo shy-outness in a voice. A ring worn too tight may encourage thoughts that circle too much, tighten too fast. But a ring that's chosen consciously, with balance in mind, with support in heart, becomes a quiet reinforcement. Not a rule, not a ritual, just a gentle agreement. I wear this not because it looks good, but because it feels like support. Because this is the truth. Adornment is not about decoration, it is about dialogue. The ring is not a command, it's a collaborator. And before you ask, should I wear one? Maybe ask, what part of me is calling for attention? What part of me feels either too loud or not heard at all? That is the starting point. Because in Feng Shui, the body is not just a vessel, it's a field, an ecosystem, a space where every choice echoes, where gold is not just a color, where shape is not just design, where every loop, every stone, every shine has something to say. 3. The right alternative for the right energy. Let's pause for a moment and consider this. What if the discomfort doesn't mean the symbol is wrong, only that its shape is? That the resistance you feel doesn't come from the idea of adornment itself, but from the way it wraps around you, holds you, directs your energy? Because a ring is a closed loop. It encircles, it defines boundaries. It is precise, elegant, purposeful, but also fixed. It asks you to hold something, sometimes too tightly. And while that can be powerful for someone seeking completion, it can also become confining for someone who needs release. So what happens if we choose a different shape? What if, instead of a wall, you wore a window? That's what a pendant is. A pendant doesn't bind. It hangs freely near the chest, an area where qi is naturally in flux, where emotion meets thought, where breath moves between the inner and outer world. For someone like a dragon, whose energy is ambitious, upward moving, often focused on external progress, a ring can sometimes act like a speed bump. It interrupts momentum. But a pendant, it follows the line of the body. It flows. It honors that forward and upward direction by not getting in the way. Preferably suspended from natural fibers or metal that matches your elemental tendencies, a pendant can become a subtle anchor that invites grace without limitation. A gold medallion may amplify vision. A carved piece of jade may temper it with compassion. Either way, it speaks through stillness, not pressure. Now think of the horse. The energetic signature of the horse is movement. Physical, emotional, mental. Always adjusting, always reaching, often carrying others. A ring can sometimes feel like a fence for the horse, something that hems in what is meant to gallop. But a bracelet? That's a river, a series of beads that move with the hand, that dance slightly with each step, that make music without being loud. That's a more honest companion. Especially bracelets made of elements that hold yin strength. Obsidian for grounding, rose quartz for self-compassion, wood for harmony. The key is motion. The bracelet does not force you to be still. It moves with you, reminding your energy that freedom does not need to be noisy, and rhythm can be a form of direction. And then, the goat. Gentle, intuitive, stabilizing by nature. This is an energy that often absorbs more than it expresses. Goats tend to feel the emotional temperature of a room before they have even walked through the door. For them, a ring can sometimes amplify over processing. It becomes a spotlight when what's needed is a soft lamp. Here, jade, calm, dignified, ancient, can serve, not as a statement, but as a reminder. Whether as a pendant or carved bead on a fine thread, jade grounds. It doesn't protect by shielding. It protects by softening the edges of experience. And silver, for those with a more inward rhythm, may be the metal of choice, not because it stands out, but because it listens. Silver is receptive. It cools what burns too hot. It absorbs tension. It doesn't shine to be seen. It shines to soothe. For anyone going through transition, grief, change, recalibration, silver can become a quiet companion, not demanding attention, but offering presence. And this is where the core message returns. Energy does not require adornment. But if you choose to adorn, let it be honest. Let it be responsive. Let your jewelry reflect your season. If you are in a time of clarity, perhaps a ring, clean, bold, is the punctuation mark you need. But if you are searching, softening, shifting, then perhaps a bracelet is more appropriate. Something that moves with you, not ahead of you. Ask yourself, am I trying to contain my energy or let it breathe? A ring is a wall, a pendant is a window, a bracelet is a river, and sometimes we are not meant to choose just one. Sometimes, like the seasons themselves, our symbols must change. What grounded you last year might restrict you today. What seemed too subtle before may now feel just right. There's no shame in changing your tools. No guilt in outgrowing your favorites. In fact, in Feng Shui, growth is not measured by how much you hold on to, but by how gracefully you let go of what no longer flows. So if the ring no longer feels like support, don't rush to discard it. Set it down with care. Let it rest and turn to what feels more open, more fluid, more aligned with who you are becoming, not just who you were. 4. When rings work and when they don't. Not every ring holds resistance. Not every band constricts. In fact, when chosen with thought, with clarity, with elemental harmony, a ring can do precisely the opposite. It can focus. It can sharpen. It can contain the scattered fragments of ambition and draw them inward, steady like a lighthouse. But here is the quiet truth. A ring is only as powerful as the awareness that placed it there. In Feng Shui, the question is never, is this good or bad? It is always, is this in harmony with what I am trying to grow? Just as a plant thrives not from water alone, but from the right water, at the right time, in the right soil, a ring supports not by existing, but by aligning. Let's begin with nature itself. In classical Chinese metaphysics, each person is shaped by elemental composition, not metaphorically, but energetically. The 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, are not labels. They are pulses. And every zodiac sign carries with it a tendency towards certain pulses, certain strengths, and certain vulnerabilities. Signs like the rooster, monkey, and sometimes the tiger carry an affinity with precision, focus, strategy, and motion. They are builders, not always loudly, but persistently. For these signs, when the energy becomes too fast, too erratic, or overly ambitious without structure, metal becomes a welcome companion. Metal doesn't smother their fire, it tempers it. It doesn't erase their edge, it refines it. A ring of solid, clean design, not overly ornate, not cluttered with stones, placed on the right finger of a rooster can function like an anchor to a ship, not preventing movement but ensuring direction. It brings rhythm to passion, timing to effort. The same ring on a sign like goat or rabbit, however, softer, more yin, more rooted in earth or wood, may feel like constraint. The ring is not the villain. The mismatch is the friction. And then there's the matter of form. An enclosed ring, especially one that fits tightly, is a symbol of continuity. Yes, but also containment. A perfect circle with no break says, hold it here, Pepesi, huh? This is beautiful when your energy needs focus, when your projects are scattered, when your efforts start but do not finish. A ring here says, complete the loop. But if your energy is already compressed, if you've been holding your breath through responsibilities or locking yourself into routines that no longer reflect who you are, then the same ring becomes a wall. In such cases, an open form ring, one that leaves a sliver of space, a visible gap, a breath, may be more supportive. It says, yes, focus, but not at the cost of circulation. The metal too has a voice. Gold, the yang expression of metal, carries weight. It resonates with status, decision-making, externalized clarity. It says, I know where I'm going. But gold is not neutral. It commands. And if placed without readiness, it may ask more of your energy than you have capacity to give. Silver, on the other hand, is yin metal, cooler, more receptive, less loud. A silver ring on the left hand, especially for someone in a season of healing, grief, or emotional recalibration, can feel like a balm, not a brand. Placement matters as much as material. Your dominant hand, usually the right, represents energy you extend, the hand of doing, shaping, deciding. A ring here amplifies your output. Whatever finger it touches, it adds weight to the story you are projecting outward. The non-dominant hand, the left in most, is receptive, the hand of absorbing, holding, intuiting. A ring here works like a filter. It alters what you're willing to receive and how you digest it. For someone ready to step into leadership, a gold ring on the right index finger can fuel presence. But for someone learning to soften, to listen, that same ring might become a burden. The intention must match the trajectory. Even the fingers themselves speak in symbols. Thumb, the will. A ring here affects determination, self-direction. Index, ambition, drive, power, and influence. Middle, grounding, responsibility, identity. Ring finger, love, commitment, memory, continuity. Pinky, communication, contracts, emotional finesse. To wear a ring blindly is to hand over influence without knowing what you're strengthening. But to wear a ring with clarity, I place this here because I'm ready to support this aspect of myself, is to turn adornment into alignment. And this is where the real shift happens. Because in the world of qi, of feng shui, of breath, of motion, it's never the object that holds the power. It's the relationship. The ring doesn't change your life. It reflects whether you're ready to change your relationship with a part of yourself. whether that be ambition, love, voice, or protection. So when rings work, they don't feel like trophies. They feel like tools, like extensions of your internal focus. They disappear into your field because they're not disrupting it. They're flowing with it. When they don't work, they may still look beautiful. They may still shine, but they press. They irritate. Not always physically, often just subtly enough to make you more tired, more indecisive, more muted. This is why we say a ring doesn't need to be removed forever, but it must be reevaluated often. Ask it questions. Does this reflect where I am or where I used to be? Is this amplifying something I need or something I'm trying to grow out of? Do I wear it because I want to, or because I don't know who I am without it? Because sometimes the most powerful energetic shift begins not with a purchase, but with a pause. With asking the ring on your hand, are you still meant for this part of my journey? And if the answer is unclear, place it down. Just for a while. See how your breath responds. Not your mind, your breath. If it deepens, if your hands soften, if your spine relaxes, you'll know. That's not superstition, that's resonance. 5. Energy isn't a transaction. If we're not careful, even the most sacred practices become performance. Even the most subtle tools, like a ring placed on a finger, a stone tucked into a pocket, can become mechanical rituals, mistaken for switches we flip rather than mirrors we polish. But in every wisdom tradition, including classical Feng Shui, there is a deeper teaching. One that rarely gets spoken aloud but sits quietly beneath the surface of every object, every gesture, every symbol. Energy isn't a transaction. And yet, this is how many of us begin. Not out of ignorancy, but out of hunger. We hear that a gold ring can amplify power, that a silver one can ease pain, that moving it to a different finger might shift our luck. And so we rush to do it, to wear it or remove it, to adjust something in the outer world with the desperate hope that the inner world will follow. It's not wrong, it's human. Who doesn't long for the stuck place to open? Who doesn't want one elegant fix for a complicated ache? But energy, real energy, doesn't move like that. It doesn't obey quick logic. It doesn't trade. It listens. It listens to posture, to intention, to the slow weight of your breath as you place the object. It listens to whether you're wearing it out of faith or out of fear, whether you have made space for a new cycle or you're clinging to the last one, trying to tape it back together with gold and meaning. In classical Feng Shui, we work with qi, the breath of life, the movement of space. It's not visible, but it is felt. It doesn't come when summoned, it comes when welcomed. And welcoming requires more than a new ring. It requires an inner opening. This is why when people say, I wore the right ring, I followed all the rules, but nothing changed, we always ask gently, what else was moving inside you? Because if the gesture was made in panic, if it was rushed, clenched, demanding, then the qi will mirror that. Not because it is punishing you, but because energy always reflects the tone it meets. You cannot pour harmony into a cup of resistance. It will spill. Let's say you remove a ring that no longer suits you. You do it with awareness. You do it with gratitude. And the next day, your business doesn't suddenly bloom. Your relationships remain complex. You still have to answer the same emails. Was the gesture meaningless? No, because energy doesn't respond to results. It responds to resonance. Sometimes the shift shows up not in new opportunities, but in your ability to respond differently to the old ones. Sometimes the weight you lose isn't on your hand, it's on your heart. We're so trained to chase effects, to treat the universe like a vending machine. Put in the right coin, get out the prize. But symbols are not vending coins. They are extensions of intention. They don't cause change. They echo it. They remind you. They hold a frequency for you, like a tuning fork that keeps ringing even when you've forgotten the note. And that is why fear-based adjustments almost always miss their mark. A ring removed in anxiety may briefly relieve pressure, but it leaves a hole if the internal fear isn't addressed. Likewise, a ring worn in hope but laced with doubt will only amplify that split. Your hand saying yes, your body saying no. So what do? We step back. We remember symbolic tools are not substitutes for self-awareness. They are companions, invitations, lighthouses. They remind us of direction, but they cannot walk the path for us. If you feel drawn to wear a ring, so pause. Ask what part of you is seeking reinforcement. Is it ready to be supported? Is it clear in what it's asking for? And if you feel ready to take a ring off, don't do it with shame or superstition. Do it with reverence, with the same care you might give to closing a letter that no longer needs replying. You're not rejecting the past. You're releasing it so the future has a place to land. Energy is not a slot machine. It's a garden. And adjustments, whether symbolic or physical, are not coins. They're seeds. They take time. They require tending. And above all, they require you to be present, not just with what you want, but with what you're cultivating. So wear the ring if it aligns, remove it if it contracts. But in both cases, let it be a dialogue, not a demand. And if nothing changes tomorrow, breathe, because maybe you did not plant it for tomorrow. 6. Real-life story. The seamstress's ring. She was never someone who asked for much. Her world was fabric, thread, and the quiet rhythm of a foot pedal, pressing down as her hands coaxed patterns from memory. In the small courtyard of her home in Hoi An, where sunlight filtered through bamboo slats and the scent of jasmine lingered even in the dust, she sewed for decades: wedding aodai, school uniforms, the occasional Western shirt when tourists passed through. And always on her right hand was a ring, thick, solid, yellow gold, passed down from her mother after the war. Worn not just as jewelry, but as a sign of inheritance, of stability, of being established. In the early years, when orders came in like waves and money changed hands with gratitude, she believed the ring brought luck. She would turn the ring gently before cutting a new fabric roll. She would kiss it quietly during the Tet holidays, as if sealing her fortune for another year. But time passed, the orders slowed, not abruptly, just subtly. First a few missed return customers, then a week with no new inquiries, then long afternoons with nothing but mending work. She blamed the economy, the rise of mass-produced clothes, her age, her slow hands. But deep down, something else was shifting, something she couldn't name. Her sleep grew restless. Her mind, once sharp with measurements and patterns, became clouded. She second-guessed herself over simple things. Should the collar be half an inch higher? Should she call that old customer again, or let it be? And the ring began to feel heavier. Not physically, though it did leave a faint imprint now, but energetically, as if it had turned from a source of support into a quiet weight she carried without question. One morning, while having tea with a younger neighbor, an herbalist who had studied both traditional medicine and Feng Shui, she confessed how tired she'd been feeling. The neighbor smiled gently and said, "Maybe it's not your hands that are tired. Maybe it's the memory they carry." She gestured to the ring. "You don't have to throw it away," she said. "Just rest it. Let your energy breathe without it for a while." At first, the seamstress was reluctant. That ring was history, her mother's memory, her sense of success from decades ago. But the suggestion echoed. It lingered in her mind longer than expected. That evening, she placed the ring in a small ceramic bowl beside her altar. No ceremony, no words, just a quiet laying down. And in the days that followed, something shifted. Her posture softened. She began to move less like someone clinging to a dwindling craft, and more like someone curious again. She rearranged her sewing room, let more light in, took 2 days off just to walk by the river and watch the changing of the season. She didn't suddenly receive a flood of clients, but her decisions became easier, her thoughts clearer. She repaired a long, broken friendship with another tailor. And one afternoon, a tourist walking past noticed a sample shirt hanging by her gate. He ordered one, then 2 more. And so the rhythm slowly returned, not as it was, but in a new way. The ring, resting quietly on her altar, was not blamed, nor was it forgotten. In fact, on special days, she still wears it. But now with awareness, not as a charm, not as a burden, as a symbol of who she was, and who she no longer has to be every day. Because this is what no one tells you. We outgrow our symbols, not because they are bad, but because we are becoming someone new. And when the body whispers discomfort, when the heart hesitates at what once felt like home, it is not rebellion. It is evolution. The seamstress learned what so many of us forget. Sometimes the symbol that once stabilized us becomes the very thing that slows our growth. And the greatest act of respect we can offer that symbol is to let it rest when the time comes. She didn't lose her luck. She redefined what it meant to be supported. And in that space of release, she discovered something even more precious than the gold ring on her finger. She discovered the weightlessness of alignment. Final. Take one last breath with me, not to end the conversation, but to settle into its quiet echo. Today we explored something small, a ring, a loop of metal, an object so familiar it almost disappears from awareness. And yet, it holds shape. It holds meaning. It holds memory. It sits on your body like punctuation, defining where your energy begins and where it might be getting paused. But this wasn't really about jewelry, was it? It was about resonance, about what happens when you listen to your space, not just your home, but the space of your body, your rhythm, your readiness. It was about asking not, what should I wear, but what feels aligned with where I am now. Because when we shift our symbols, we shift the stories we carry. And when we shift the stories, the path begins to feel different underfoot. Less forced, more free. So if you've felt something in today's reflection, not drama, not urgency, but a gentle tug in the chest, let it sit with you. You don't have to remove anything. You don't have to decide today. But maybe tonight, before sleep, you notice the ring you always wear. You hold it in your palm. You ask, not out loud, but inwardly, is this still for me? And then you listen, not for a voice, but for a soft change in breath. Because clarity never shouts. It arrives like a sigh. And in Feng Shui, that moment, when the body lets go, is when energy begins to move again. So I ask you now, gently, what are you still wearing that no longer reflects who you've become? What ring, what habit, what symbol is quietly asking to rest? And if this reflection gave you something to think about, I invite you, truly, to leave a comment below. Share your experience with energy, adornment, or perhaps a moment when something you once loved no longer fit. I read each message slowly, gratefully. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of subtle shifts and quiet clarity, please like, share, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're inching toward our first 1,000 subscribers, not for fame, not for numbers, but so we can keep bringing these gentle insights into the places most people overlook. Because that's where change begins, not in noise, not in force, but in the spaces we learn to honor with care. Thank you for being here. Until next time, walk lightly, choose gently, and let your energy breathe.